Okay, we have a development here at Teacher Side Hustle Lab. I made my first eBay sale, and not only that, but it sold for $81 and it had only been listed for about 12 hours. So I was very excited. I couldn't believe it. Um, and now I'm even more curious about this whole reselling experiment because I'm starting to see some really interesting differences between Vinted, eBay, and Poshmark. So let me tell you about what happened. So the item I sold was an embroidered silk blouse that I already owned. It was basically new without tags. I had literally never worn it. And instead of putting this particular item on Vinted, I decided to try eBay. And there was actually a reason for that, which was I have been doing more research into reselling and learning from people who know way more about it than I do, who've been doing it longer than me. And so one of the things I've started to do is to look at the actual sold listings on eBay, what they call solds. And so not just what people are asking for or, what people are listing their item for, because obviously I could list a sock for $700 if I wanted to. Doesn't mean anybody's going to buy it. Uh, but I want to know what is actually sold. And so I searched for this particular brand and it clicked when I noticed that I actually had that brand. And I looked at the sold listings. I saw similar shirts that had recently sold for a pretty good amount of money. And so I thought, okay, let's try. Let's try eBay for this. So I listed mine for 95. And about 12 hours later, I got a notification. Somebody sent me an offer for 81 and I accepted. And after all the fees and everything that comes out, it's just under $70 that I'm making. But this was a blouse that I already owned and it was sitting in my home. And so that's, money that I didn't have before in my pocket. So yes, I was extremely happy about that. And this has changed how I'm looking at reselling. So what's interesting to me is that I'm starting to see two different possibilities with reselling. And again, I want to be very clear that I'm still very new at this. And, one eBay sale doesn't make me an eBay expert. Um, and we are, I have 6 listings currently active on there, which is not a scientific study, but we are experimenting here. But based on what I'm seeing so far, Vinted and eBay might serve two different purposes for me. So Vinted has been giving me smaller sales, but more of them and more consistently, and quicker overall, except for that one that sold super fast on eBay. But since my last update last week, I've continued selling things on there, and I've sold items for $2.50, $8, $5, $10, $4. But they keep happening, which is great. And I currently have about 18 active listings on there on Vinted. And I think that from what I'm seeing, the strength there is the volume that I can do and that I see other people doing on there. So, you make a few dollars here, a few there, you keep things moving, and then eBay comes along and my very first sale is $81. So I'm thinking now eBay could give me the opportunity for some of those higher volume individual sales. Again, way too early to declare that's how these platforms work per se, but it's something that so far that's been my impression and something that I want to keep testing and learning about. Um, I'm also buying a little inventory here and there. And so, I'm still trying to sell mostly things that I already own. But as I do go purchasing items to resell, I'm trying to be more selective about it. And I'm actually using the eBay app. I'm taking pictures and then checking on there to see if that item has sold recently and for how much money. And so I'm trying to answer, basically, is there hard evidence that somebody will buy this, basically? Because, we don't want to be spending money and then having that inventory sit on our shelf, collecting dust for a very long time. Hopefully it'll sell. There's a chance it won't sell, right? So we want to be cautious with what we're buying. But I've already sold a few of those items that I specifically bought to sell, such as blouses, t-shirts, and dresses. And most of those have sold pretty quickly on Vinted for between $3 and $4. Um, and when you consider that I paid about $1 for each of them, that's a $2 to $3 profit per item. So, uh, but that's interesting. Again, it's just interesting information. So, maybe I could have more inexpensive items that move quickly on Vinted while being more selective about certain pieces that might have the potential to sell for more somewhere else. Um, so that's what I'm thinking. That's my hypothesis, and something that I'll be continuing to test. And then there's also Poshmark. I've started listing on there. I currently have 8 items on there. I have sold nothing on there. But I do actually like it. It's very different from Vinted and eBay because there's a social component. And so people follow me. I'm following people. People have shared some of my items. Um, and so, even though I haven't made any sold sales, um, yet I am optimistic that they will come through. Um, excuse me. And it's interesting too because it seems that in general you can get higher prices, higher earnings per item on Poshmark versus Vinted. At least that's been my impression so far. The part I'm liking the most so far about this whole reselling business is that it feels very actionable, it's very practical, tangible, and honestly, I really like the fact that sales are coming in quickly. I mean, who doesn't, right? But in comparison to the experiences I've had with starting a blog and um, and selling, digital products, which some of those digital products are starting to sell on Teachers Pay Teachers, which is exciting. Um, but certainly in comparison to having a blog, this money is coming in much faster. Like it's actually coming in, period, instead of just going out. So that has been really refreshing and has given me an energy boost. And to feel like, oh, okay, I can do this. I can make some extra cash with this. And then it's been nice too because, the whole idea of passive income, of course, this reselling is not passive, but today I was visiting with family and we were sitting outside enjoying beautiful weather and enjoying some nice beverages. And all of a sudden I got a notification that something had sold on Vinted. And it's like, cool, here I am enjoying my time and my family when that happened. So even though obviously that's not totally passive money, it was nice just to have that coming in while, we were enjoying our company and everything. So, I'm not just interested in whether something can make money, but I want to know if it could fit into somebody's real life. You know, um, Teachers are notoriously strapped for time and energy and money. And so, so far for me, this has been a good experiment that I think teachers can consider if you're looking for something sustainable. Right now, I'm probably spending about 30 to 45 minutes a day on this during the week. Um, and then maybe 2 or 3 hours over the weekend. Uh, and so far, to me, that feels manageable. But most importantly, I'm enjoying it and making money, and that's fun, and that matters to me. Um, so where do the experiments go from here? Well, right now, I'm most curious about making another higher dollar sale, even if it's on eBay or it might be on Etsy. Uh, because of some of the policies eBay has, there's certain things you cannot sell on there. Um, Perfume, for example, there's like a whole bunch of regulations around that. Um, so I'm gonna look into Etsy for that. And I heard Mercari can be good for selling perfume too, but I have to look more into that too. Um, and then reselling, isn't the only thing I'm testing. So I've actually still been making some more sales this past week from Teachers Pay Teachers, which is awesome. And so uh, with that, my next goal is to share something on there that I created, um, back when I was teaching to fill a gap in, something that I needed that I couldn't find anywhere else, if that makes sense. Instead of making a new digital product, that I think would help somebody, which is also great. But this time using something that's just a little bit different, that, something that like I said, created to fill a gap for something that I couldn't find. So that's where I'm headed with that, and I'm excited about that too. So in closing, first eBay sale, uh, and about 12 hours after first listing, which was great, and having a lot of fun finding out. So in the comments, let me know, have you sold anything on eBay? What have you sold? And how has it compared in your experience to any of the other platforms I mentioned? All right. Thanks for tuning in. See you soon. Bye.